Hey y'all. Sorry about that. I was messing with some settings. So welcome everybody to the Crowdsourced Politics Podcast. I am the host and moderator of the Crowdsourced Politics Podcast, Cypher here. And today we are going to have a good show here. We're going to talk a lot about the news, about some election analysis, getting into why some things might be happening the way they are, that sort of thing. But tonight we're also going to cover live President Biden's speech about the soul of America, and I'll be providing commentary on that through more or less throughout the evening when they do actually go live. So I got it up on my screen here on my second monitor. So we're going to go ahead and unmute it so that I can make sure that we can hear it once they go live. Right, I'll be able to quickly go over there. But before we get into tonight's show, let's go ahead and start with some announcements. So first things up is that if you do not know, if you're new to this program, we like to do other podcasts besides this one. We do the Crowdsourced Politics Podcast proper, which is a podcast focused on all things politics, social, and cultural. And in that, we actually cover a variety of topics, everything from like the Libyan civil war, all the way to like MMT and economics. But it looks like it's starting. So let's go ahead and go over to that. And while
Please
we
welcome
wait,
the President of the United States and Dr.
it's starting.
Jill Biden.
Closed captions. There we go. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this speech only goes for about 45 minutes. That's about the time I think it'll take, but we'll see. For those that may not be aware, I'm going to go ahead and turn this down a little bit while we wait. For those that may not be aware, Joe Biden actually called out Trumpian supporters, Trumpian candidates, as semi-fascist. And he has gotten put on blast for that, even though, you and I might agree that they're pretty authoritarian. So this is probably what that's going to address tonight as well.
My fellow Americans, please, if you have a seat, thank you. I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in America. Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is where America made its declaration of independence to the world more than 2 centuries ago with an idea unique among nations, that in America, we're all created equal.
Yeah.
This is where the United States Constitution was written and debated. This is where we set in motion the most extraordinary experiment of self-government the world has ever known. With 3 simple words: we the people.
I'm curious if the whole building is lit red or if it's red, white, and blue.
These 2 documents and the ideas
if
they
that was
embody,
a little play on Dark Biden.
Equality and democracy, are the rock upon which this nation is built. They're how we became the greatest nation on earth. They're why, for more than 2 centuries, America has been a beacon to the world.
Oh, this guy's not happy.
But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face, about the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats, about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it.
Ooh, time for choosing.
Never
okay.
Forget, we the people are the true heirs of the American experiment that began more than 2 centuries ago. We, the people, have burning inside of each of us the flame of liberty.
Pretty hopeful speech so far.
Here at Independence Hall. Flame that lit our way through abolition, the Civil War, suffrage, Great Depression, world wars, civil rights. That sacred flame still burns. Now in our time, as we build an America that is more prosperous, free, and just. That is the work of my presidency, a mission I believe in with my whole soul. But first, we must be honest with each other, with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal.
True.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represented extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But
so this focus on mainstream Republicans kind of ignores the
today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the
fact that they helped create MAGA in the first place, right?
That is a threat to this country. These are hard things.
Enablers. That's
but I'm an American president, not a president of red America, blue America, but of all America.
United States of America.
And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful. And here, in my view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution.
Facts.
They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election. They're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies.
True.
Powering election deniers.
They are doing
democracy
this.
Itself.
Going after Secretary of State's
are determined
positions.
To take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose.
Yep.
No right to privacy. No right to contraception. No right to marry who you love.
There we go.
They promote authoritarian leaders and they fan the flames of political violence that are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of this country. They look at the mob that stormed the United States Capitol on January 6th, brutally attacking law enforcement, not as insurrectionists, placed a dagger at the throat of our democracy, but they look at them as patriots. They see their MAGA failure to stop a peaceful transfer of power after the 2020 election as preparation for the 2022 and 2024 elections. They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people. This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people. That's why respected conservatives like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Ludwig has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy. But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can, we are not powerless in the face of these threats. We are not bystanders in this ongoing attack on democracy. There are far more Americans from every background and belief who reject the extreme MAGA ideology than those that accept it. And folks,
so this is good so far. Can't disagree with anything of this as far as the political strategy is concerned.
Stop the assault on American democracy. I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those moments that determine the shape of everything that's to come after. And now, America must choose to move forward or to move backwards, to build a future or obsess about the past, to be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. But together we can choose a different path. We can choose a better path.
So this is kind of using classic Republican terminology with like the time for choosing and everything like that.
A future to build
so
and dream
that's
and
reaching
hope.
across the aisle to a degree, at least with
We're
moderates.
on that path moving ahead. I know this nation. I know
Do you,
the
Joe?
American people. I know your courage. I know your hearts. And I know our history. This is a nation that honors our Constitution. We do not reject it. This is a nation that believes in the rule of law. We do not repudiate it. This is a nation that respects free and fair elections. We honor the will of the people. We do not deny it.
Okay, he's poking at the whole this isn't a legitimate presidency thing.
Rejects violence as a political tool. Do not encourage violence. We are still an America that believes in honesty and decency.
And if you like disagree with what he's saying so far, it's
Patriotism,
really
liberty, justice for
for
all, hope, possibilities.
kind of like
still,
rank
at
and
our
file
core, a democracy.
people, like people that aren't
Yet-
very politically engaged, kind of thing. Gotta keep that in mind.
History tells us the blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy.
Yeah, true.
For a long time, we've told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it's not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it, each and every one of us. That's why tonight, I'm asking our nation to come together, unite behind the single purpose of defending our democracy regardless of your ideology.
So he's reaching across to get those like
They're all
moderate
called by
Republicans that aren't
duty
very
and
much
conscience to
in
confront
favor of Trump.
extremists who put
And that's
their
what this
own
is really
pursuit of
focused on.
power above all else. Democrats,
We'll see if
independents,
language
mainstream
gets any
Republicans
stronger.
must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy. And MAGA Republicans are destroying American democracy. We, the people, will not let anyone, anything tear us apart. Today, there are dangers around us we cannot allow to prevail. We here, you've heard it, more and more talk about violence as an acceptable political tool in this country. It's not. It can never be an acceptable tool. But I want to say this plain and simple. There is no place for political violence in America, period. None, ever.
Now, this is his position regardless of where it comes from. He called out Antifa and a bunch of other people that did stuff.
We
So
saw law enforcement
think
brutally
it's-
attacked on January the 6th.
I think it's just directed at
We've
Republicans.
seen election officials, poll workers, many of them volunteers of both parties, subject to intimidation and death threats. Can you believe it? FBI agents just doing their job as directed, facing threats to their own lives from their own fellow citizens. Top of that, there are public figures today, yesterday, and the day before predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets. This is inflammatory, dangerous, against the rule of law. We, the people,
And it
must
shouldn't
say,
be considered free speech.
this is not who we are.
Yeah, everybody, let's say this isn't who we are, despite the fact that it's been who we
Ladies
are
and
for
gentlemen,
centuries.
we can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. They're
Sure.
incompatible. Can't allow violence to be normalized in this country. It's wrong.
Hey, he's very much
We
right
have
about
to
that.
reject political violence with with all the moral clarity and conviction this nation can muster. Now, can't let the integrity of our elections be undermined for that path to chaos. Look, I know politics can be fierce and mean and nasty in America. I get it. I believe in the give and take of politics, in disagreement and debate and dissent. We're a big, complicated country. But democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic. Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people, see politics not as total war, but mediation of our differences. Democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated. That's where the MAGA Republicans are today. They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win. It's fundamental. American democracy only works only if we choose to respect the rule of law and the institutions that were set up in this chamber behind me. Only if
not wrong about that
we respect our legitimate political differences.
If people don't respect the law, it's not going to hold. If most of the people don't do it.
The American people be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost. I will not stand by and watch the most fundamental freedom in this country, the freedom to vote and have your vote counted, be taken from you and the American people. Look, as your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me. Throughout our history, America has often made the greatest progress coming out of some of our darkest moments, like your hearings at Bullhorn. I believe we can and must do that again, and we are. MAGA Republicans look at America and see carnage and darkness and despair. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power. But I see a different America. An America with an unlimited future. An America that's about to take off. I hope you see it as well. Just look around. I believe we could lift America from the depths of COVID. So we passed the largest economic recovery package since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And today, America's economy is faster, stronger than any other advanced nation in the world. We have more to go.
The recovery package has a lot to do with the fact that the rest of the world is sluggish while we're going pretty strong comparatively.
Investment since President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And we've now embarked on a decade of rebuilding the nation's roads, bridges, highways, ports, water systems, high-speed internet, railroads. I believe we could make America safer. We passed the most significant gun safety law since President Clinton. I believe we could go from being the highest cost of prescriptions in the world to making prescription drugs and healthcare more affordable. So we passed the most significant healthcare reform since President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act.
That's pretty significant too, honestly, especially the drug price cap.
And I believe we could create a clean energy future and save the planet. So we passed the most important climate initiative ever, ever, ever. The cynics and the critics tell us nothing can get done, but they're wrong. There is not a single thing America cannot do, not a single thing beyond our capacity if we do it together. Never easy, but we're proving that America, no matter how long the road, progress does come.
Might have been a subtle notion to the fact that
Look,
it took a while to get there.
I know the last few years have been tough, but today, COVID no longer controls our lives. More Americans are working than ever. Businesses are growing. Our schools are open. Millions of Americans have been lifted out of poverty. Millions of veterans once exposed to toxic burn pits will now get what they deserve for their families and their compensation. American manufacturers come alive across the heartland, and the future will be made in America.
There's been a lot of work on that too, so I don't know. We'll see if it happens.
No matter what the white supremacists and the extremists say, I made a bet on you, the American people, and that bet is paying off.
He finally called them out directly.
The darkness of Charlottesville, of COVID, of gun violence, of insurrection. We can see the light. Light is now visible. Light that will guide us forward, not only in words, but in actions. Actions for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, for America. Even in this moment, with all the challenges we face, I give you my word as a Biden, I've never been more optimistic about America's future. Not because of me, but because of who you are. We're going to end cancer as we know it. Mark my words. We're going to create millions of new jobs in a clean energy economy. We're going to think big. We're going to make the 21st century another American century, because the world needs us to. That's where we need to focus our energy.
Too.
Not in the past, not on divisive culture wars, not on the politics of grievance, on the future we can build together. MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail. They believe America, not like I believe about America. I believe America is big enough for all of us to succeed. And that is the nation we're building, a nation where no one is left behind. I ran for president because I believe we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. I still believe that to be true. I believe the soul is the breath, the life, and the essence of who we are. The soul is what makes us, us. The soul of America, defined by the sacred proposition that all are created equal in the image of God, that all are entitled to be treated with decency, dignity, and respect, that all deserve justice and a shot at lives of prosperity and consequence, and that democracy must be defended, for democracy makes all these things possible. Folks, and it's up to us. Democracy begins and will be preserved in we, the people's habits of the heart, in our character, optimism that is tested yet endures, courage that digs deep when we need it, empathy that fuels democracy, the willingness to see each other not as enemies but as fellow Americans. Look,
I think somebody was shouting at Joe Biden.
It always has been. Notwithstanding those folks you hear on the other side there, they're entitled to be outrageous. This is a democracy. But history and common sense.
Oh, good for him. That was good. So calling them out, but saying, hey, you're still allowed to do this.
Nothing they've ever suffered from. But history and common sense tell us that opportunity, liberty, and justice for all are most likely to come to pass in a democracy. We have never fully realized the aspirations of our founding, but every generation has opened those doors a little bit wider, include more people who have been excluded before. My fellow Americans, America is an idea, the most powerful idea in the history of the world, and it beats in the hearts of the people of this country. It beats in all our hearts. It unites America. It is the American creed, the idea that America guarantees that everyone be treated with dignity. It gives hate no safe harbor. It installs in everyone the belief.
This is the hopeful message that
you start in life,
some liberals are actually pretty decent in giving. I know that a lot of doomers out there aren't going to agree with it,
but
we
stand for.
It's actually helpful to pulling people over and doing the right thing.
creating possibilities, focusing on the future. And we're only just beginning.
The best is yet to come, Biden style.
Our task is to make our nation free and fair, just and strong, noble and whole. And this work is the work of democracy. The work of this generation is the work of our time, for all time. We can't afford to leave anyone on the sidelines. We need
This is true.
everyone
We
to do
need
their part.
everybody to
So
come
speak up,
over.
speak out, get engaged, vote, vote, vote. And if we do our duty, in 2022 and beyond, then ages still to come will say, we, all of us here, we kept the faith. We preserved democracy. We heeded our worst. We heeded not our worst instincts, but our better angels. We proved, for all its imperfections, America is still the beacon to the world, an ideal to be realized, promise to be kept. Nothing more important, nothing more sacred, nothing more American. That's our soul. That's who we truly are. That's who we must always be. I have no doubt, none, this is who we will be, and that we'll come together as a nation that will secure our democracy, that for the next 200 years, we'll have what we had the past 200 years, the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We just need to remember who we are. We are the United States of America, the United States of America. May God protect our nation, and may God protect all those who stand watch over our democracy. God bless you all. Democracy. Thank you.
All right, it was about 30 minutes, like I said it would be. So if you're just joining us, that was the conclusion of Biden's remarks to the nation about the soul of the nation. And we'll talk a little about that before getting into the news. Making sure that there's no other remarks though here. That would be the last thing you'd want to do, is end it before you get the encore. But it doesn't look like there will be one. So we'll go ahead and call it there. All right. Boom, solo. There we go. All right. So yeah, that's what we got. All right, well, everybody. Well, thank you everybody for joining so far. This is the Crowdsourced Politics News Roundup, and I am the host and moderator of that podcast, Cypher. And today we got a lot to talk about, as I said at the top of the show, but I know people just joined, so we'll talk a little bit more about it. So we're going to be covering things like what Biden just said, the election results for these past primary elections and the special election in Alaska, which was fun. We'll also be covering news about the economy and so forth. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, welcome back, y'all. Oop, what happened? Oh, sorry about that. Welcome back, everybody. So let's go ahead and get into it, starting with Ukraine. So we reported last week on the danger of the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, which has come under heavy shelling by Russian troops. UN inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, arrived at the plant after being delayed for several hours by conflicting reports of shelling. The IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi, who is leading the 14-strong team, has said that the inspection could take a few days and that the agency aims to establish a permanent presence at the plant. Russian officials, however, said the mission should last just one day. The plant's operator, Energy said earlier today that it had activated emergency procedures and shut down one of the facility's 2 working reactors, quote, as a result of another mortar shelling by Russian forces at the site. Now, Ukraine has also launched counteroffensives to reclaim Kherson, and we'll watch some video of that here. Right. Let's go ahead and play this. So here's some video of said counterattack. All right, got that. It's going to just keep replaying. Got some still images here of that counter assault, etc. So a senior advisor to Zelensky pushed back against Russian news reports that the effort had been stalled or failed. In a statement, he's quoted as saying, "It is carried out in a planned manner. We destroyed enemy logistics, air defense systems, fuel, and ammunition depots," the advisor said, adding, quote, "There will be no quick wins." Ukraine forces struck strategic bridges in the southern Kherson region, aiming to isolate Russian troops located in the region. Ukraine's defense ministry said 2 bridges used by Russia to transport equipment and ammunition in the region have been disabled. Continuing on, it looks as though Russia is looking to address the shortage of troops by compelling soldiers wounded earlier in the war to return to combat and recruiting personnel from private security companies and even recruiting from prisons, according to a U.S. official. If prisoners are conscripted, it would be in exchange for pardons and financial compensation. But some Russian military analysts predicted it would rely heavily on volunteers, a cautious stand reflecting the Kremlin's concerns about possible fallout from an attempt to increase the draft. In a report from NBC News, the chairman of Lukoil, one of Russia's largest oil companies, and one of the only Russian businesses to criticize Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, fell to his death from a 6-story window at a hospital in Moscow. State-linked Russian media were quick to declare the death of Rafael Maganov as a suicide. There are reportedly no CCTV cameras around the area of Central Clinical Hospital in question because of renovations. Maganov is 8th Russian who died after a fall from a window since 2017. And if you're not aware, this is a common Russian tactic where they just literally chuck you off of a building if you go against the Russian state media or the state directive. They'll just throw you off a building to your death. And it's very, very, very common for them to do so. So it should be, nobody should buy this as a suicide. And nobody in Russia buys it as a suicide. It's clearly a murder by being thrown out a window. Literally is what they do, because it's cheap and you can always say, well, they committed suicide. So this is something that the FSB, the security apparatus in Russia, has done since before it was the FSB. So, hey, thanks for the follow, Trav. I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and unmute the alerts. Now, we'll end tonight's update on Russia war in Ukraine with 2 videos. First is a video. Hold on, I gotta open it because it didn't open for me. First is a video from Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, which highlights an unflagging spirit and determination of the soldiers fighting this war. So we'll be putting some of this up here in a second. Come up. There we go.
Похуяриться все, что только можно. Прорвали первую линию обороны.
So that would look like a okay, that is effective propaganda. All right, so they used in this video, if you couldn't tell, let's just go over in this video. If you couldn't tell, they clearly used some of the stuff that that Russian soldiers had put out, right? And as the opener to be like, yeah, they're hitting us from all sides. We're taking heavy losses, and then was like, you could either run or die, and showed the many missiles or rocket systems and stuff that they've used to decimate Russian forces in this war, and they've been very, very effective in doing so. And this is not targeting allies. This isn't an ally drum up morale boosting video. It's not meant for that. It's meant to penetrate Russian security apparatus and get to the actual Russian soldiers on the ground to be like, look, we're fucking you up. You've already had 400,000 troops die from reports. You can just leave. You don't have to fight. And if you don't, well, we're going to kill you. And this is how we're going to do it. So that was very effective propaganda. Love it. Love it, because Russia is the aggressor here. I don't care what any other leftist says. I don't care what any anti-war advocate says. Ukraine has every right to defend itself, and the United States has every right in order to provide arms and ammunition to the Ukrainian soldiers, because Russia violated their sovereignty, and you're not supposed to do that. And yes, that does include when the United States has done it before and continues to do so in some instances. So that's where we're at with that. Now, our second video is the official trailer for a new documentary that tells the story of millions of people whose lives have been turned upside down by 8 years of conflict in Ukraine. Now, according to Deadline, this is the first official trailer for the movie called Freedom on Fire, Ukraine's Fight for Freedom, set to debut at the Venice Film Festival next week. Let's go ahead and... Wait, where is it? Oh, let's go ahead and watch that now. Oh, wait, gotta wait for the ad because I didn't have it preloaded. I'm sorry, everybody. All right, pause. And go. Wow, that was a long ad, man. All right, so here's that video. Hold on. Here, unmute, play. Oh, is it muted? Oh, sorry. Let's go ahead and read. There we go.
В 2014 году Украина начала евроинтеграцию, вот этот весь переполох тогда и начался.
Ось ця проросійська частина влади розвалилася. І здається, Господи, нарешті от все закінчилося. А ні, тільки все починається.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Начались авиаудары, начались бомбежки, войска двинулись через границу.
So it's good to show, let me pause this real quick. So it's good for these documentaries to actually show how the war is impacting regular people that are not engaged in the fighting, people that can't be said to have been, instruments of war, so to speak. Either people that are trying to be joining the propaganda, any of the soldiers that may be erroneously called Nazis, etc. And so showing this here actually helps drum up support and is also good use of, for lack of a better term, propaganda. Shit.
Когда уже становилось очень-очень плохо, когда бомбежки усиливались, я просто сидела и думала, как безболезненнее умереть вместе с ним.
От жизни освободили, от жилья освободили, от работы освободили, от всего освободили.
Та й всею державою фашист, що він зробив? Його не може весь світ зупинити.
Ми завжди раді людям, гостям. Але ці гостям, які до нас прийшли з мечем, ми не раді.
Ребенок в 19 лет, он еще ничего не видел. Он мне сказал, а кто, если мы, мужчины, будем вас защищать?
Гордость за то, как мы сейчас объединились. Я очень горжусь тем, что я украинец.
Мы обязательно победим! Слава Украине!
And that concludes the intro to the documentary. Let me go ahead and just move my screen back down. All right. So again, this is effective use of media in order to get the message out, in order to humanize what is happening in Ukraine, humanize what is going on to the people in Ukraine, and the like. Now, excuse me. The what we should point out though is that the reason why Ukraine is calling them Nazis and fascists is because the Wagner Group is a Russian-backed group, a very staunch Russian nationalist-backed group who has been credibly accused of carrying out ethnic kidnappings in Russia, or not in Russia, I'm sorry, in Ukraine, against Ukrainian civilians. So it's not just that they're being attacked by outside forces, it's that the kind of attacks they're experiencing are targeting directly the civilians in the hopes of destroying the Ukraine's will to fight, and it seems to be backfiring. But that concludes our segment of Ukraine. So let's go on to more news and talk about US politics here, starting off with some news about the Biden administration. So first up is immigration. Now, there's some interesting things going on with immigration, with the ending of the Remain in Mexico policy, the ending of Title 42, the reopening of asylum cases, etc. And the way that some states are responding to this is by being utter dicks. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So Texas and Arizona have been busing immigrants who are released from detentions while awaiting an immigration hearing to sanctuary cities. Now, in response to that, the Biden administration announced this week that these states will be reimbursed for the cost of busing these immigrants to sanctuary cities. Nonprofits that expend funds will also be reimbursed, and the reimbursement will come from FEMA's budget. And the reason why this is a strange kind of thing is because it's one of those situations where it's kind of everybody's best interest to just have this kind of happen and go away to a degree. One, it's in the interest of the immigrants that are being removed from these states, assuming of course that it is completely voluntary, right? If it's not voluntary, if they're being scammed or coerced in any way, not cool, right? But assuming that they're not under duress, then getting them out of a state that's going to target them for the fact that they're an immigrant, illegal or otherwise, undocumented or otherwise, is a good thing. It's good for them. Getting them into a city that will be more welcoming of them is good for them. The Republicans doing this are doing this in order to look tough on immigration and to fight back against Biden. And Biden, by following this, looks like he's being more amicable to immigrants and helping them out and everything like that. So it's like one of those situations where everybody benefits from it, even though it's kind of weird and a little bit gross. Even more than a little bit gross. You could say that it's a lot gross. But that's why this is happening. And also the way that we have our immigration court set up is that oftentimes immigrants have to go from their point of entry, whether it's on the south border or wherever they're picked up at, to other states for processing. So you wouldn't think that Oregon or Oklahoma has a immigration hearing in it, but it does. It's part of one of the 7 or 8 districts or so. We actually interviewed a few times our friend Nate Dowling, who is an immigration lawyer out of Oklahoma. So yeah, check those out. Honestly, check out those immigration talks. They're really good and very informative. But that's to say that they're going to be moved one way or the other, and it's best for everybody involved to go to a place where they're going to be more welcomed, so to speak, especially if there's family already in these areas, which oftentimes there is. Continuing on, we have arms sales to Taiwan. Now, according to Politico, the Biden administration will ask Congress to approve an estimated $1.1 billion in arms sales to Taiwan that includes 60 anti-ship missiles and 100 air-to-air missiles. Lawmakers are likely to approve this sale. Fears have grown in recent years that China is positioning itself to take Taiwan by military force based on its belief that the island is part of China. In response, the US and other Western nations have sought to bolster Taiwan's defenses and praise its vibrant democracy, in stark contrast to Beijing's authoritarianism. Last week we covered, or probably 2 weeks ago at this point, we covered why China has been going over this, and you should check out that short video that we put up for that. But needless to say, the United States has a strategic partnership with Taiwan, and it is in both countries' best interest for that strategic partnership to continue. And primarily around the lines of chip manufacturing. The United States helped build up Taiwan's economy. China basically ignored Taiwan due to a number of different instances, trying to cement its own internal power within China proper. The nationalists that fled to Taiwan during the Civil War and established their own government there wasn't really big on their radar. They won the war already, and Taiwan is like a small island off of the east coast of China, similar. I'm not going to say that because I'm not sure, but it's also the southeast coast of China. It's not very far from it. So if they ever wanted to take it over, was the thinking, they could just do it. And that's where the strategic ambiguity of, one China's policy and the United States, talking out of both sides of its mouth for over 60 years comes from, is this strategic partnership and China's inability to fully take over the island when it was trying to cement its own internal power. So those are going to be continuing for a long time, long time. And there should be nobody should assume that this is going to be an issue that gets fixed anytime soon, especially given recent developments coming out of China with what they're experiencing, which is akin to the 2008 financial crisis that hit the United States. It's not exactly the same thing. It doesn't appear that there is as much contagion, but with this issue with their banking system and their housing system, their development system, and their no COVID policy, which is a combination of wanting to cement control within the internal Communist Party's power structure and to prevent the overloading of hospital systems, which will tamp down on deaths. You have this ball of mess that's being created that China can't really project anything outward, at least kinetically. And by kinetic, of course, we mean direct military confrontation. So some of the things that China has done in response to what the United States has done, especially Nancy Pelosi's visit over the last couple of weeks, is staging military exercises around the island, doing shadow fights with jets, fake practice bombing runs of Taiwan, and showing a show of force and saber rattling. But they're not going to be able to do anything outside that because they don't have the ability to do that right now. They don't have the political capital to do so, internal and external, because they need to keep their goods and services flowing out to the world in order to ensure some internal political stability. So I wouldn't expect everybody that says, hey, we're going to end up going to war with China, like this is big bad news, China's going to get really pissed off and like bomb the shit out of something. No, it's not going to happen, at least not anytime soon. And by anytime soon, we can't divine out, what's going to happen. We can't take our divining rod and like, what are we going to do? We can't do that, but we can probably say at least 2 years, given everything that's going on. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it, to be honest with you. Now, in another update from our 2 weeks ago is an update with Afghanistan. And in that, we're going to see more Afghan refugees settled within the United States. This is according to reporting from CNN. The Biden administration is pivoting to a long-term strategy to assist Afghans who worked with or on behalf of the U.S. government. Last year, amid the evacuation of Afghanistan, the administration stood up Operation Allies Welcome, a whole-of-government effort to resettle Afghans in the United States. Since then, around 86,000 Afghan nationals have resettled to the United States. The operation is being renamed, quote, Enduring Welcome, with a focus on helping Afghans and their family members who remain abroad. Quote, the commitment does not have an end date. The commitment to resettle our Afghan allies, a senior administration official told reporters. We're now able to assign people to their destinations, communities directly from overseas, so people can travel without a stopover, the senior administration official said. And this is really good because with everything that went on within Afghanistan and the amount of people that helped U.S. forces fight the Taliban, fight Al-Qaeda, there are probably still hundreds of thousands of people, so to speak, or well, maybe not that many, but a lot of people that are stuck and still kind of in danger. And because they don't have to stop, that's going to expedite the process, and that will mean more people being able to leave Afghanistan going forward. And in additional news, along the lines of chip manufacturing, we're going to experience chip export bans. Now, this is coming from reporting according to The Telegraph. Now, the White House has blocked two of America's biggest chip makers from exporting high-end graphic chips to China. The US fears the technology could be put to military use, because it can. If not direct military use, graphic computing can do wonders when it comes to machine learning algorithms and the like, and it's powerful enough that they could use it for nefarious purposes. Now, the US listed Nvidia and AMD said that the Biden administration had imposed new licensing requirements on their artificial intelligence processors, effectively banning their sale in China. Good. This is what I'm talking about. These are good things for us to do. Even if you don't think that China is like this big bad enemy that we have to, protect ourselves against, maintaining competitive edge with them in terms of technology development, especially along quantum computing and artificial intelligence, will position American workers in a better position globally, and position America itself into a better position globally as well. China is a direct competitor in these markets. They've invested billions of dollars both into artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and quantum computing. Like all these things, they have invested heavily in the last 5 years. And in the United States is behind the eight ball. It really is. We have not done the amount of direct government investing in these things that we need to. And this is playing catch up. And by doing this and preventing the export of our great computer processors or great graphic processors, that's going to help in that regard as well. Hey, appreciate that, Daniel. Appreciate the kudos. Now, continuing on, though, the ban is a significant escalation of high-tech trade war between China and the United States, blocking Beijing from accessing some of our most advanced silicon chips in production, as previously stated. The block was effective immediately for any future exports to China, Hong Kong, or Russia, Nvidia said in a regulatory filing. A Department of Commerce spokesman told Reuters the new licenses were to, quote, keep advanced technology out of the wrong hands in order to protect U.S. national security interests and foreign policy interests. Again, what I said, everything true, very true. Now, the United States has, the White House has also placed multiple high-tech Chinese companies, including its biggest chip makers, CCTV, camera maker, and drone companies, on U.S. export blacklist as well. Again, Daniel, thanks for the kudos. I appreciate it. We try to do good news coverage here on this program, and yeah, I'm glad you enjoy it. All right, give me 1 second. I need to get some water. All right, sorry about that, everybody. Having some issues today. All right, but we need to continue on with the news, and this is a big thing that we need to cover, and that is the state of the races for Congress. We talked about this last week, created a short clip video of it called Even Mitch McConnell Thinks These People Are Clowns. Go check it out on YouTube. It's really good. 20 minutes succinct coverage of what happened so far. We got some updates for that now. Now, as primary season draws to a close, let's take a look at where the parties stand. Cook Political Report has rated Senate control as a toss-up because, again, these people are clowns. Now, the rating comes after a change in the landscape since prior to the start of the primaries, when it was believed Republicans were more than likely to flip control of the upper chamber. It's easy to look at the Senate battleground map and find a toss-up state. But real political junkies earn their stripes following the battle for the House, a battle that is heating up. And Cook Political Report moved 5 House races towards Democrats just today. And we're going to look over to that now. The change came after a surprise outcome in Alaska. Mary Platola beat former Republican Governor Sarah Palin in a special election to fill a vacant congressional seat in Alaska. Now, this matchup is going to repeat in November because the special election is only to fill the seat until the new congressional term, which begins, I want to say, January 3rd, when the new slate of Congress people get sworn in. Now, After the results of the special election were announced, a stunned Sarah Palin insisted she won pretty handedly, if not for ranked choice voting. This is completely and utterly a falsehood. Even under a plurality system, a first past the post, winner take all system, under the conditions that Sarah Palin ran in yesterday, right, and the other day, she would have still lost. Because Patola got roughly between just herself got roughly like 40% of the vote or so in just by herself. Palin was not going to win this race because she was split. Her vote was split between, in the plurality system, her vote was split between herself and Burga. So she wasn't going to win. This is just crowning foul, like they lost. And they don't like to admit that they were defeated, so something fishy must have happened because, well, Alaska's always been Republican, right? So if it was always Republican, then what the fuck happened just now? Well, I can tell you what happened, okay? What happened here is that people really, really, really did not like Sarah Palin. And the inter-party battle between her and the other Republican candidate, Burgla, I don't remember how to pronounce his name right now, was bloody. There was sniping coming from both ends of that spectrum. And the people that voted for him against her didn't fill out second choices. That's what early reporting is indicating. Whether that is true or not, we'll have to take a couple of days more before it's all revealed and the vote tally comes out directly and there's been more analysis on that. But that is what it's seeming to be. So they did not put her down as a second choice because they are rejecting, even in Alaska, the reddest of red states is rejecting MAGA candidates. And everybody knows that Palin was proto-MAGA. She was MAGA before MAGA was cool, right? Can't put lipstick on a pig or pit bull or something. I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah, you can't. Pit bull lipstick is what they called her, right? And they're rejecting that. Democrats went from, oh, they're going to lose. They'll maybe have like 40, 50 seats. The House is going to just wave Republican. Just crashed, wave just came out and they got BTFO'd. Completely BTFO'd in this election. And that's what we're going to see more of from the looks of it. All right, so continuing on. Now, Democrats currently have 220 seats in the House. Though Republican Representative Charlie Crist announced his resignation and Ms. Pola has not been sworn in yet. Republicans currently hold 211 seats, meaning they only need 9 seats to win back the majority in November. And this brings us up to Republicans backing Democrats in Pennsylvania. This is where things are headed right now. Republicans are actually starting to back Democratic candidates against what MAGA represents, because Trump fatigue is real. It's as real as TDS. And that's what we're seeing here. And Pennsylvania is one of those states that we're seeing it the best in, or the biggest in. So 7 Republican leaders have announced their endorsement for Pennsylvania Democratic candidate for governor Josh Shapiro, according to Insider. The announcement came following photos of GOP State Representative Douglas Mastriano wearing a Confederate military uniform. Yeah. Let's get that on the screen here real quick. Look, I know in a lot of places, Civil War reenactment is a thing. This isn't a Civil War reenactment. No, sir. This is him hanging out with the boys in the uniform he chose to wear. And he chose to wear a Confederate uniform. And if you don't know, yours truly here participated in some anti-Confederate lobbying here in Texas, in the state of Austin, under De-Confederate Austin, and had some wins. So in the state of Austin, in the city of Austin, the state of Texas. Yes. But so, he can extra go fuck himself. All right. And this is coming just a month after 9 Republicans vowed to support the Democratic candidate and called Mastriano an extremist who threatens American democracy. Now, according to a statement released by the Shapiro campaign this week, the group includes Michael Chertoff, the former U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security under President George W. Bush. In the press release, Chertoff said that while he's a long-standing Republican, he is, quote, deeply troubled by Mastriano's embrace of dangerous extremism. And in a photo obtained last week by Reuters, it showed Mastriano posing, which we already put up there, posing in Confederate uniform for a faculty photo at the Army War College 3 years before retiring from the U.S. Army in 2017. So it makes it even worse. This was him doing... He was at the Army War College. Oh my God. Bro. The Union, the Union, which is what won the Civil War. You didn't know. Oh, spoiler alert. Beat the out of those people. And you're choosing to wear that at the Army War College? Man, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Now, his political agenda can be summed up in a direct quote. This is him saying, I will turn the state of Pennsylvania into Florida of the North. He wants to make it DeSantis land. Yeah. I don't think... I've been to Pennsylvania. I've been to Pennsylvania a few times. I don't think Pennsylvania wants to be Florida of the North. It's a purple state for a reason. Okay? You can't bring that Southern heritage bullshit up north. That's how towns got burned. Civil War joke. Anyways, and there's still more to come with the election. And we're going to talk about the enthusiasm gap now. Now, the enthusiasm gap, for those that may not know, is the amount of enthusiasm one party has for the election over the other. And we're seeing that there is no doubt that the overturning of Roe v. Wade has activated Democratic voters. Now, what is that's showing here? Well, what that's showing, and we'll get it on screen here in a second, so we can talk about it, because we don't blow stuff out. We don't blow smoke. All right. Oops, I accidentally closed out the tab. All right. Overall, as you can see on the screen, election interest jumped up from 53% of all voters expressing high interest, either a 9 or a 10 on a 10-point scale, in the combined January, March NBC News poll, to 62% expressing high interest in the combined May and August poll. Biggest increases came from Democrats, who went from 48% in high interest to 64%. Black voters, who went from 42 to 57, and political independents, which went from 38 to 51. Let's say that again. Independents. Independents are typically not that enthused to vote. And they're coming out strong right now in the polling. Now, Republican voters, by contrast, increased by just 3 points from January to March, from 66 to 69%. Typically speaking, the party out of power has greater enthusiasm to come out and vote. We're talking 20% plus, because the people out of power know that stuff is not going their way, and that just gets them real mad to the point where they want to vote them out of office. Or, in the case of some Republicans now, make bomb threats to children's hospitals. And this is what we're seeing. Not only that, a new Wall Street Journal poll released today shows that the preferred party for control of Congress now is leaning Democrats. In March, the number was 41%. It's now over 50%. In August, Democrats gained 6 percentage points, with the total now at 47%, leaning Democrat. There's still some undecided there, but that lean increased by a lot. Now, the Republican Party stood at 46% in March, while the August poll reflects a preference at 44%. This is huge. During midterm elections, that is usually not the way it goes. Why it's going on that way, we don't know the whole answer for that, because this is just a poll. All right, it's not the actual vote. The vote could turn, a lot can happen between now and November. But there is every reason right now for Democrats to be hopeful and maybe not see the House flip because of these things. And some of that reason is what we heard earlier in tonight's program with Biden taking the stage. So as the political headwinds shifted towards Democrats, President Biden has visited swing states and has revealed party strategy. Tonight's topic was the Soul of Nation. We listened to that live. You can rewind this and go back to it. I have some minor commentary on that. But to make a long story short of what happened, the speech basically said we have to combine all of us into a new coalition of voters against tyranny, against authoritarianism, against MAGA, and unite against MAGA for our shared common interest, heritage, and this ideal of what America is. Because that is true. MAGA has a completely different vision of what the United States should be. Okay? Completely different. And if this coalition can be built up of where people have this shared, visionary city on a hill type of America, where everybody gets better off every year as it goes on, and there's not this authoritarianism, there's not this anti-democratic element in it. People, are able to leave their children off better than they were. If that coalition can coalesce with Biden talking about these things, it will be a winning coalition. Not just a winning coalition, but a blowout coalition. That said, there are concerns, and we might talk about those concerns in a bit, but let's continue on with this. Now, Biden ran on bringing the country together despite the vitriol of modern politics, and no one can say that he didn't try. Since taking office, the president has taken care to refer to his friends across the aisle and has couched his criticism in carefully worded statements. For their part, Republicans have spent the last 2 years calling Biden and Democrats in general radical leftists, socialists, communists, Marxists, pedos, groomers, etc. Degenerates, all these things you see online all the time. You make one comment about, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter if you're a guy, you're a girl, non-binary, it doesn't matter who you are. If you make one statement in support of trans people's very existence, of the idea that, kids can be trans, you're going to be called a groomer. And that became Republican policy. We see it from DeSantis. We see it from, even Lindsey Graham to a degree, Charlie Kirk, all of them, right? And that's what's happened. That's where the Republican Party is right now. Full stop. Not every single voter is this way, but this is where the party is. And if the party wins on these positions, the people that support that party will end up changing their positions, because that's how things work. People are influenced by those around them and by winning. Okay? So why it needs to be crushed. Now, ABC News reported that Biden introduced new combative rhetoric at a Democratic fundraiser and rally in Maryland last week. He attacked Republicans who denied 2020 election results, remained aligned with former President Donald Trump, and are criticizing the FBI amid its investigation into classified documents found at Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. He's called Republicans' attacks on the FBI sickening in a fiery speech on Tuesday in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and called out Republicans who refused to condemn the Capitol 6 riot on the Capitol. He accused MAGA Republicans of embracing semi-fascism by paying fealty to former President Trump. He has blasted the party for being full of anger, violence, hate, and division. Y'all, we've done it, all right? This is just proof that meme magic is real, even for the left. Because Dark Brandon's rising, everybody. Even though it's a little mild-mannered. But that was a good, like, I wish I had the video. I don't have the video. Maybe I can find it real quick. Hold up. There's semi-fascist Biden. Video. Oh man. Speech or missed the memo. It's like semi-fascism. Here we go. No, that's in the speech. I want the one where he told a reporter. Oh, here we go. Is this it? No. Okay, I can't find it right now. But a reporter asked if this was painting too broadly of a brush, right? And he's like asked what it means to be semi-fascist, and Biden's like, what do you think it means? And just walked off. Boom, mic drop. Anyways, let's continue on though. He warned of the danger from Republicans loyal to Trump went far beyond differences in policy. Quote, "They're a threat to our democracy," he said of the party that he has spent half a century working with to find common ground. They refuse to accept the will of the people. They embrace political violence. The president lashed out at one-time friend and colleague Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, who has ominously warned that a prosecution of Trump over his handlings of classified documents would lead to quote-unquote riots in the street. Biden responded with, quote, "The idea you turn on a television and see a senior senator and congressman saying, if such and such happens, there will be blood in the streets. Where the hell are we?" At the rally in Maryland, Biden posed challenges to Americans saying, quote, "This is, in this moment, those of you who love this country, Democrats, independents, mainstream Republicans, we must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving America than the MAGA Republicans are to destroying it." Biden's aide said and all this was done in tonight's speech with a little bit of tampering down on the language a bit. But we have more to cover, and that is now we're going to cover the Trump effect directly. So in the days since the FBI search on former President Donald Trump's home, there's been a lot of speculation. Will he be indicted? If he is he's going to be indicted, when will it happen? As to the first question, no one can really know, and speculation is pointless. It's an unprecedented conversation, and it seems to be that he's still being treated special because he is former president. But we can be fairly confident that no indictments will be handed down between now and the midterm elections. That's because the DOJ has standing 60-day rule, which prohibits prosecutors from taking overt steps in politically charged cases within 60 days of an election. President Bush's Attorney General issued the first election year sensitivities memo to all DOJ employees in March of 2008. The memo advised them that politics should play no part in the timing of criminal charges, and the indictments should never be brought, quote, for the purpose of affecting an election. It is expected that Attorney General Merrick Garland will respect that tradition. But how will the search and subsequent releases of more information about his alleged crimes impact the midterm elections? That's a question we can at least address with a little bit of confidence. After revelations that about 33 containers of government documents were seized on August 8th, many of Trump's most vocal defenders have decided to temper their reactions. There's no unified Republican message on the apparent federal criminal investigation into the president's actions. And attempts to defend the president or attack the feds in the wake of that raid have been uneven at best. Now polling from Quinnipiac University points to some reasons Trump allies may have gone quiet. The poll found that 59% of Americans saying they think Trump acted inappropriately in how he handled classified documents, with 50% saying he should face criminal charges. And Republican strategists, as well as moderate Republican leaders, have voiced strong concerns that Trump's re-entry into politics will harm the party's candidates on November 8th. Now, Trump filed a request that a Florida court appoint a special master, to which the DOJ replied this week. Their brief released more information about what's found in the search, including this picture. which we'll pull up now, which I'm sure all of you have seen. Or all of you seen it, but it's important to point it out again. Including this picture. Where's that picture? Okay. It's a redacted photo showing documents that were taken from a container. The items were laid on the floor at Mar-a-Lago and marked as evidence prior to being photographed. Now, some of it's redacted. You can see some of the stuff, but you can clearly see. Oh no, it's not going to let me zoom in? Oh. Okay, there we go. You can clearly see secret SCI. That's pretty secret compartmented. Oh, there's more. Oh, wait. This image has got it redacted, doesn't it? Okay. Well, what you can't see, and it's like here, because there's been a unedited photo of this circulating around. There is also top secret compartmented information revolving to talent keyhole and human source confidential, which means that this is the kind of information that's the securest of the secure. It should not have left any SCIF, which is a secret compartment information facility, which is where documents are stored. Like, we're talking like blackout sites, right? You can't even, a radar signal can't even penetrate these buildings. Concrete for days, okay? And they included information about foreign sources to human intelligence. Like, it is beyond caricature of it. Beyond caricature of what these documents mean. If you were at all concerned about Hillary's emails, about the amount of information being passed back and forth over a private server, this should make you shit your pants. Because this is 10 times worse than whatever came out of the State Department at the time that Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. I'm not being exaggerative when I say 10 times. It is. Now, the brief also revealed the extent to which the former president obstructed the attempts of the National Archives to take possession of the materials, which by law belong to the government. There was a hearing held in federal court in Florida today, with breaking news late this afternoon from CNBC. The judge in Florida announced she will unseal a more detailed inventory of items FBI agents seized in the August 8th raid of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. We know from previous reporting that 300 classified documents had either been returned by Trump earlier this year or seized from his Mar-a-Lago residence. It appears that the world will shortly know exactly what those were. And by exactly, we mean kind of like the broad overall picture, not the contents. Now, Judge Aileen Cannon also will make public a status report by the investigation team probing the removal of documents from the White House when Trump left office in early 2021. Cannon ended the hearing without ruling on a pending request by Trump to appoint a special master. Cannon said that she will rule later on that request. In a separate ruling today, Cannon said she will keep sealed a status report on that review by the DOJ so-called filter team. The Justice Department was ready for the possibility the judge would order that the more detailed list be unsealed, saying in a court filing earlier this week that, quote, the government is prepared, given the extraordinary circumstances, to unseal the more detailed receipt and provide it immediately to the plaintiff, getting out ahead of the messaging that Trump's teams tried to flood the zone with, that were reported in her video a few weeks ago. Now, it's unclear when the document will be resealed. As the former president has filed motions, the DOJ has revealed more and more information, most of which has been not helpful to Trump's defense at all. It's hard to imagine that the public release of a detailed inventory will be helpful in this case. Now, one thing we should also mention here before we wrap up this is that the Trump brand is starting to be toxic, like we already said, right? But the amount of loyalty his supporters show to him still is through the roof. Straight up. And so a lot of his supporters honestly believe that if Trump runs in 2024, he'll win against Biden. They're citing inflation. They're citing a lot of things that Biden has done, such as the forgiving of student loans, which, good job, Biden. Good thing to do. Citing the FBI raid, citing gas prices, citing Afghanistan, citing the border wall, etc. But honestly, one of the worst things Republicans could do, and I'm going to say it because it's not going to matter. Trump's going to do what Trump's going to do, and his supporters are going to support him regardless. And there's enough of them that if he runs, he probably wins the primary. So it doesn't matter that I'm saying this. But one of the worst things that could happen for Republicans is for Trump to still dominate the party. Because Trump fatigue, as we said earlier, is very real. It is real. You can see it in how people are reacting to the candidates that are still promoting the big lie. You can see it how the candidates in the Senate are all being trounced in polling right now, for the most part, when they are in purple states, and how voters are reacting to it. So, you know, at this point, honestly, and I put this on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, go follow us on Twitter, everybody. What is it? Say act. Go ahead. Outsource poll. Said this on Twitter. Trump is helping Democrats right now so much that he may as well be controlled opposition. And with that, we're going to end our segment on Trump and get into some additional news bites. First up, we have the devastating storm that hit Mississippi earlier this week. So Mississippi's capital, Remain City, entered a fourth day Thursday with little to no water flowing from faucets. Authorities were scrambling to get a failing water treatment plant plunged by decades of deferred maintenance back online. Decades of deferred maintenance. The flooding that happened just exacerbated this problem because nobody wants to spend money in this country on things that actually matter. Okay? There is no reason why Mississippi should be without clean water right now. The flooding I can understand, but this would have already been taken care of had they actually maintained their water pump systems. This should be considered criminal. Honestly, the state of Mississippi needs to be under some sort of, I don't know, federal mandate to provide clean water. Come on, EPA, do your job. And Biden, this is a way to show you can accomplish more and better things for people. Real day, everyday people. By helping get this fixed. Get on it. Now, the problem though, which comes on top of the boil water notice in effect for more than a month, has upended life in the city of roughly 150,000 residents. Where schools were shuttered this week, businesses are forced to adapt, and people have had to wait in long lines for bottled water they can use to drink, cook, and even brush their teeth with. After days of work on the plant, including Wednesday's installation of a rental pump, water pressure is returning in some areas, city's officials have said. Areas closer to the plants are, quote, experiencing almost normal pressure, while areas farther away still have low to no pressure, they said. The problem came to a head Monday when a river flooding nudged an already damaged main treatment plant to failure. Many of Jackson's faucets are delivering barely, if any, water. In some cases, that water has been brown. City residents already had been told to boil their water since late July because of quality concerns, and the water system has been troubled for years. The rental pump installed Wednesday at the treatment plant will help add 4 million more gallons of water a day into the system, authorities believe. The state also contracted with outside operators to begin work on critical emergency repairs. This should never have happened. This is when federalism fails, because states are supposed to manage this themselves, and when you have a state that doesn't give a shit about its own citizens because they don't want to raise taxes on their most wealthy citizens, they don't want to pay for it, this is the kind of stuff that happens. Everybody should be living it. This is basically Flint, Michigan all over again. It really is. There's probably going to end up being lead found in this as well. Make no mistake about it. Now, the treatment plant sends treated water to above ground tanks spread across the city and those tanks, which send water to homes and businesses, are supposed to be full for optimal pressure. Failure of the plant's pumps led tank levels to drop. More than half the tanks have begun filling back up, city officials said in a news release on Thursday. The state Thursday opened 7 new sites for distributing bottled water, which are in addition to distribution sites already established by the city, Governor Reeves have said. Again, though, this should never have happened. The boil water notice issued in July was already a massive failure. The fact that their maintenance hasn't been done for years, a systemic failure on the part of the Mississippi government. Make no mistake about it. And that's where we're going to conclude that segment. We also have some news bites coming at you from Truth Social. Now, Truth Social, it's called that because every time you want to say something, I've posted a truth, it makes it stick in your brain that it's something that's true. Just a little nudge for you there. It's bullshit, but it's good marketing. But let's talk about what's going on. So according to The Insider, Donald Trump's Truth Social platform is going through some things. The future of the former president's 10-month-old social media platform is on uncertain ground as the app faces huge financial losses and is accused of shorting its vendors. Oh, Trump shorting its vendors? Stiffing people? Oh no, who would have guessed it? Oh, jeez. Everything this man touches turns to dust. Okay? He's a grifting scam artist. You know that used car salesman that you always feel really grimy after talking to? That's essentially Trump. He just had millions of dollars to parlay it into millions more dollars by scamming millions of people. And it just keeps going. And I don't understand how... Okay. I attended a Trump rally of sorts a few months ago. And at that Trump rally, they were selling classes to people. 2 classes that I know of is one called Invest EDU, and another one was called Win Realty. And both of them sold people on the magic of investment, either in property or stocks, using some proprietary program that was basically just Excel macros. Excel. Yeah. 97, not even Excel 2000. That's what it looked like. Okay. For tens of thousands of dollars. Both of them were above $30K for their primary or premium services. Teaching you the secrets of investing. Bro, if those investment secrets work so well, you wouldn't be selling them to people. So I need to really do a story about that. Because it's not been talked about at all. It's been since May. It's been what, 3 months? Oh, yeah, it's been 3 months. I haven't seen anybody talk about it. So I need to get on it. I'm going to redo some research. We're going to come out with an episode about it. Anyways, continuing on though. Now, a planned merger between Trump's media technology group, TMTG, the business that created the platform, and the special purpose acquisition company, or SPAC, Digital World Acquisition Corp, has been postponed indefinitely as the Securities and Exchange Commission continues to investigate the platform's business dealings. For people to, as we've previously reported, a SPAC like Digital World are companies formed either to raise funds through an initial public offering or for the purpose of merging with an existing company. SPACs have no other commercial operation. In an SEC filing earlier this month, Digital World said it had neither engaged in any operations nor generated any revenue to date, as its sole purpose was to prepare to take Truth Social public. In another filing, Digital World sought shareholder approval to delay the merger, set to take place on September 8th, until next year, citing concerns over the former president's reputation potentially impacting business. Digital World stock has since plunged more than 75% since its peak in March. In a recent SEC filing, the company reported it lost $6.5 million in the first half of this year. This week, the platform was dealt another blow when its trademark application was denied for being too similar to another social app called Vero, True Social. Fox Business Network reported today that Truth Social is locked in a bitter battle with its vendor, RightForge. The platform is accused of stiffing the hosting service out of $1.6 million in contractually obligated payments. People that may not know, RightForge is a right-wing service provider for internet. It's a hosting service. So, Parler, what is it? I think it's not Parler. It's Parler and Rumble. I want to say Rumble are hosted by RightForge. Just to give you an idea of the kind of people that they want to host on their platform. They want to give right-wing people the ability to be able to access internet and have their sites be accessible to other people. Nothing wrong with that. But even a right-wing organization designed to protect right-wing ideas is being stiffed by the Trump organization. That should tell you how shady these people are. And if this doesn't break people out of their little bubble, nothing will. Continuing on, 3 people with direct knowledge of the matter told Fox Business Network that Truth Social made just 3 payments to RightForge for its web hosting services and stopped making payments in March. Trump's companies have filed for bankruptcy at least 6 times, a fact Digital World noted in its SEC filings, the Washington Post reported, saying, quote, a number of companies that were associated with Trump have filed for bankruptcy, and that there are no assurances that Trump Media Company will not become bankrupt as well. And that concludes our segment about Truth Social and the scams. The oh so delicious scams that are Trump's organization. And the reason I say they're good, they're delicious, I don't like it that people get scammed. I think Trump should be in prison for fraud. That's how bad it is. We don't generally send people for prison for fraud. Maybe we should. But, just desserts, right? So, fuck them. Now, if you have news you want us to see us cover on this program, or anything you'd like us to talk about or talk with us, here's how you can let us know. First of all, you can join our Discord. Our Discord server we're trying to grow our Discord server up a bit, get more people on there. We're going to have contests, watch nights, other things of that nature. So come on, join the Discord. You can also hit me up on Crowdsource Politics at Crowdsource Poll on Twitter, where I like to post memes and whatever else I can fit into 255 characters or less. Of course, we have Twitch and YouTube, so you can always private message us there. And we also run a Facebook group called Tribune Commons, where you can join a group of like-minded people. By like-minded, I mean not assholes, necessarily, not necessarily just lefties and liberals, and talk about different things. That's how you can get a hold of us. So let's now continue on with some economic news. So Yahoo Finance reported yesterday that inflation is starting to drop like a rock rather than a feather, leading to outright deflation in some areas of the economy, according to Fundstat Tom Lee. A slowdown in rising inflation would be welcome news to investors, given that the stock market has sold off 5% since Federal Chairman Jerome Powell hawkish speech at Jackson Hole last week. Powell reiterated that the Fed's resolve to tame inflation by being aggressive with interest rate hikes and a reduction to its $9 trillion balance sheet. Now, this could be just him talking a tough game, but a lot of observers think that is 100% necessary in order for people not to get ahead of the Fed and show who's boss, so to speak. Me personally, I think the Fed tightening rates further or ratcheting up that tightening, we'll say, another 75 basis points, maybe a full basis point and everything like that. If they're not careful, they could be tightening up interest rates into a recession and cause a bit of stagflation. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, especially with how much prices how much inflation rather has fallen in the last month, especially around gas prices, especially around what China's experiencing its own economic crisis and the rest of the world experiencing an economic crisis. Because even if you don't like it, the Fed really does bolster the rest of the world, like the United States does. We're like the biggest consumer of everything. As the United States goes, generally speaking, the rest of the world follows. And so by the Fed tightening its own rates, other major central banks are also doing the same. So I worry about that. And it's not a huge worry. I don't worry about it like, it might get a little hyperbolic every once in a while, right? Not going to say they don't, talk a big game about it, but I'm not super concerned about it. Like this is going to happen now and everything like hair on fire kind of stuff. I'm not there, at least not yet. We'll have to see how September plays out, or rather we have to see how August played out in September. But let's continue on. So the market currently expects another outsized 75 basis point rate hike from the Fed at its FOMC meeting in late September, which 75 basis points means 0.75%. If inflation cools and is less sticky than most expect, it could change the Fed's current interest rate hike trajectory, ultimately leading to a faster pivot towards a pause in rate hikes. Given all the sayings and things that happened with the Federal Reserve over the last few weeks, I don't think they're going to not raise rates. In fact, they'll probably stick to the 0.75 basis points, but we still will see. And if they don't, though, it would be a boon for risk assets, which have been stymied in recent months by fast raising interest rates. According to Lee, inflation is quickly cooling. Quote, 42% CPI components are declining from recent highs, which equals deflation, Lee said, adding that 5 of the 9 US regions saw outright deflation in July on a month-over-month basis. These 5 regions represent 49% of GDP. In East, North Central, CPI annualized is... Okay, sorry. These 5 regions represent 49% of GDP. In the East, North Central, CPI annualized is negative 3.9%, which is outright deflation, Lee stated. Leading inflation indicators like used auto prices, airfares, real estate suggest many other components of CPI could start falling outright, according to Lee. There are many counterpoints to suggest inflation could fall faster than consensus expects. This, in turn, would change the path of Fed policy. Arguably, the inflation swaps the markets are already reflecting this, hence the lower levels of implied inflation, Lee explained. Now, digging into the actual components, Lee highlighted that commodity prices like gasoline, lumber, and wheat are falling like a rock, as are electronics, meats like chicken and beef, and clothing. At the same time, though, used cars and vehicles, airfare, and durable goods are also starting to fall like a rock. And history has shown that rent and housing costs will soon follow, according to Lee's notes. With the view that inflation is quickly falling, reiterated this call for a second half rally in the stock market that could ultimately drive up the S&P 500 to new highs by year end. Quote, bottom line, we see the second half rally thesis intact, Lee concluded. Now, Yahoo Finance also reported yesterday on a conversation with one of Charles Schwab's top strategists. The Federal Reserve will only start cutting interest rates when it's worried about U.S. economic weakness, with a natural fall in inflation unlikely to be enough to make its pivot. This is where our thinking is. The brokerage chief investment officer, Liz Ann Saunders, said markets need to start focusing on economic data other than monthly consumer price index reports. Quote, the only reason the Fed would have a green light to pause or lessen the aggressive path of rate hikes would be a more significant weakness in the economy, not just peak in inflation. Now, it's important to understand why. There have been observers over the last decade that were extremely worried that when the next economic fallout happens, when the next recession happens, you can quibble whether we're in a recession or not. If we're in a recession, it's the mildest of recessions. So another major recession, okay, a major one, that the Fed would not have tools to help fight the recession. And that would make the recession prolonged and ugly, okay? And so part of the reason why they're saying look at things other than the consumer price index for the Fed to pivot is because the increase in interest rates are seen as a way to take some of those tools back and strengthen the Fed's ability to respond to a serious recession. Continuing on, though. the Fed has raised interest rates this year as it tries to tame soaring prices, with inflation running close to a 4-decade high. However, the central bank has signaled that it would soften its approach if there's evidence that the US economy is weakening. Raising rates have hit consumer demand and housing activity levels, making economic contraction more likely. Markets' next opportunity to gauge the economy comes on Friday with August job numbers. Saunders said that the positive report on August job numbers, due out tomorrow, will reflect economic strength and is likely to encourage the Fed to continue raising rates. Quote, if you continue to see a strong labor market data, that in turn gives a green light to the Fed to continue on their aggressive path, she said. And what does that mean for you, though? So this is what it means for you. Borrowing gets more expensive. Okay? Every time this Fed raises interest rates, your ability to take on debt gets more expensive. That tamps down demand, and the thinking goes, if it's more expensive to borrow, and that makes it more expensive to borrow, more expensive to do expansions on debt, then demand will fall, and demand falling will help lower prices. For average working Americans, okay, what this could mean is a continued fall in housing prices, or absent that, depending on the market you're in, a retraction in the level of growth. Because when the interest rates are low, it is very easy for investment banks and investment firms such as BlackRock to leverage their already existing capital into more debt to buy up more capital. And that is why we saw things such as the market in Atlanta. Shout out to Travis Scott of our community. BlackRock itself buying up 20% of the market. If it's too expensive to make borrowing, then BlackRock and other firms could actually start selling off some of their properties that they bought up in the last 2 years. Sorry, my dog is playing. So they could actually see a reduction in their portfolios, which means cheaper house prices for everybody else. But when those numbers come out, we'll put up a short real quick, talk about a little of their thoughts. Shorts go up on YouTube, check them out. And we'll be here to talk about it in the following week. But we need to continue on. And we need to continue on with talks about labor in the US economy. So let's go into it. Oh, I lost my place. So, CNN reports the US economy shrank in the first half of the year. Consumer sentiment plunged amid... 1 second. Sorry about that. All right, let me restart. Sorry about that, everybody. I will restart. All right, we're going to talk about now the labor market. So CNN reports that the U.S. economy shrank in the first half of the year. Consumer sentiment plunged amid high inflation, an unrest overseas, and some of the biggest names in businesses have cut thousands of jobs. But America's labor market hasn't skipped a beat. U.S. employers announced just 20,485 layoffs in August, the lowest year-to-date total since 1993, according to data released today from outplacement firm Challenger, Gary, and Christmas. A separate report from the Labor Department revealed that the initial jobs claim for the week ended in August 27th fell to 232,000, a drop from 5,000 from the previous week's levels, which was revised downward by 6,000 claims. Initial claims are now at their lowest levels in 2 months. Recent employment data, including the July's job report and labor turnover survey, have defied analyst and economist expectations. In July, employment growth was expected to slow to around 250,000 jobs, with the number of open positionings falling to 10.5 million. Instead, 528,000 jobs were added, and available jobs surged to 11.2 million. All in all, this means that we are in a labor shortage, and that gives labor an advantage. So use it. Parlay your skills into a better paying job. Now is the time. Okay. Quote, the labor market isn't just running hot, It's like a burning inferno, said Megan Green, global chief economist for Kroll Institute and a senior fellow at Brown University. The hot job market complicates matters even further for the Federal Reserve. The Fed views the current ratio of 2 job openings for every job seeker as a potential driver for higher wages. That in turn can lead to higher prices and keep demand inflation elevated. They shouldn't care. I made a video about this. Go check it out. It's called They Want You Desperate on YouTube. We talked about it last week a bit, but long story short, fuck that way of thinking. Honestly, demand inflation due to people having jobs and actually being able to be productive members of society, feeling good, having higher pay, etc., is good inflation. It means people are on the come up. It means that people are improving, having their lives improved. When it's supply driven, when it's goods and services not having enough supply in the market to suck up that demand, when it's investors pumping up demand artificially by buying up stuff like houses, when it's people not investing in things that people need driving up inflation, driving up demand, which is driving up inflation, or tamping down on supply, which is driving up inflation, that's bad inflation. There are good and bad inflation. We have both right now, and the Fed shouldn't care about the employment side of it. They don't really have the tools to do things much on the supply side of it, all right? But they shouldn't care about it, and they shouldn't be saying things like what we covered last week about making unemployment go up to 5-6% to take a lot of the slack out of the economy and tamp down on inflation by making millions of people unemployed. It is disgusting that that's kind of the thinking that they have. And they need to be held to task, taken to task over it. No reason why that should be the case. People like you and I should not bore the cost of inflation by having us be thrown out of our jobs and making us desperate and making us potentially destitute. And I hope everybody agrees with me. Right, left, center, doesn't matter. You should agree with this. All right. Continuing on with the news roundup, though. Tomorrow's federal jobs report will be closely watched for signs that employment growth is slowing. Economists estimate that about 300,000 jobs will be added in August, a considerable drop from July and the lowest monthly gain since April of 2021. Economists have been wrong for the last few months, though, so we'll see. Now, less than 1 in 3 unemployed workers has been jobless for 15 weeks or more, data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows. A level not seen since before the Great Recession, other than a brief blip in 2020, when the labor market began to surge after the pandemic lockdowns eased. Economists continue to chew on who these missing workers are and what is keeping them from out of the workplace. They speculate that workers are being kept out of the labor market for things like lack of childcare, health-related concerns, potential restrictive immigration policies, and early retirements. There are also plenty of unknowns, including the influence of discouraged or marginally attached workers, or those who are suffering lingering conditions of chronic COVID. A recent study from the Brookings Institute estimated that long COVID is keeping potentially 4 million people out of the labor force. Despite broader economic uncertainty, the scales remain heavily tipped towards the worker. Good, said Bonnie Dowling, an associate partner at business consulting firm McKinsey. Quote, if you're in the market where it's 2 jobs for every 1 person, I think it's hard to say that this is anything but a seller's market, she said. Dowling is a co-author on a recent McKinsey report that sought to address the stark shortage in workers and what may be keeping younger employees on the sidelines. Aspects such as workplace flexibility, meaningful work, and compensation were cited as some of the key wants, according to the report. Quote, I don't think that many of them will come back into the labor market without the promise of those needs being met, she said. And if they come in with that promise and they aren't met, they've made it clear that they're willing to leave it again. We have to fundamentally rethink how we're working, she added. This is what the Great Reset ended up actually being. COVID exposed how much people on the lower end of the economic stratum are important to the functioning of the US economy to everybody else's well-being. They are pivotal to the entire economy working. And by people calling them heroes and giving them incentive pay to keep working so things could stay open and you could get your groceries and your Mai Tais and whatever the hell else, at your restaurants that were still open during COVID, that made people feel their actual worth for the first time in probably decades. Not only that, it exposed how badly they were being treated since and in that time, especially by entitled Karens talking about how can this restaurant be closed? It's like 2 o'clock on a Friday and I need my grub, and taking it out on a worker, especially when workers were just trying to not get COVID, keep food on their table, and trying to get their customers to wear a mask. Nobody wants to put up with that shit. Not a single person. I don't care who you are. You don't want to put up with that kind of bullshit. Try working on a cook line for 8 hours a day. Try working as a service desk worker 8 hours a day and deal with just the level of vitriol that self-entitled pricks levy at people on a day-to-day basis. And you tell me that it's worth, $9.25 an hour. It's not. Especially when we know that these people are needed for everybody else's lives to function. That is probably the primary reason why this is happening. That, and I honestly believe a few more people died of COVID than we expected, than we are actually anticipating. And we won't know those levels for probably ever. But I do believe that in some parts of the country, more people died or moved than what's expected. And I think that's contributing to it. Now, Insider India reporting provides more context to this as well. So workers want higher wages, and it's showing in job searches. Job seekers are turning their search efforts away from jobs paying $15 an hour in favor of those paying $20 an hour, according to a new August report from Indeed's hiring lab. Again, people know what they're worth and they're going for it. The share of searches on Indeed mentioning $20 an hour has overtaken the percentage of searches containing $15 an hour, the report found. As of mid-August, the number of Indeed queries mentioning $20 has grown 35% year over year, while searches listing $15 an hour have fallen 57.3% in the same period. The reversal persists against the backdrop of a hot labor market, emboldening workers to ask for more, as well as elevated inflation, but all but requiring them to do so. In addition, year-over-year wage growth for private employees in June and July was 5.2%. Quote, American workers haven't seen wage growth like this in well over a decade, maybe a couple of decades, Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh recently told Insider. The big raises, though, dampened by inflation, likely also encourage job seekers to boost their wage expectations. Though job seekers want higher pay, they're not always getting it. A July survey from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that workers want almost $73,000 to take a new job, but they're actually only getting around $61,000. And that concludes our talk about the labor market and the economy. So, for those that might not know, and you're still with us, hey, thank you all for sticking with. We know it's a lot to cover in 2 hours, and we appreciate you. And we like to wrap up our news segments with a bit of news called News of the Weird. Something of a palate cleanser. We like doing it because it's fun, it's interesting, and it's a good send-off. So tonight's News of the Weird segment takes us from ew to wow. Let's start with the gross one. Let's get this up here. Oh.
So I put up a half-assed joke.
Can I show this on stream? What fuck it, we're going live. So after, so this one, please don't come, basically. Oh, we're gonna start off with the gross one and get a load of this as we get a load of off our chest. A Canadian-based jeweler claimed that she creates necklaces and bracelets from semen sent to her by clients for their spouses. Clay sculptor and jeweler Amanda Booth revealed last month that she started making what she calls jizzy jewelry in 2021 after someone commented on one of her TikToks asking her whether or not she could consider using a man's juice in her creations, according to Vice News. After making a half-joking post about requests on Facebook, Booth and her husband began receiving actual requests. Booth explains that hundreds of clients have since messaged her asking her for special pieces. However, the process isn't exactly pleasant. According to Booth, the semen must be dehydrated and powdered, then added to wearable clay beads or trinkets. Booth said that for a lot of her customers, the jewelry is kink-related, and that items such as bracelets and other semen-based items act as collars. Yep. I know some kinky people. Yeah, this tracks. This 100% tracks, especially for the doms out there. I could totally see people wanting this. Like, you must wear me on your necklace for 24 hours a day. I'm going to play it, Nikki. I'm going to play it. 24 hours a day. So I'm always with you, and you know who yours is. The domless and the doms. Totally into this, and I'm sure the subbiest of the subs are too. So hey, that's what we're going to do. So Booth said that a lot of her customers, the jewelry is kink related, and that items such as bracelets and other semen based items act as quote unquote collars. After researching further into Juicy Jewelry Shop, we both thought it would be the ultimate "you are mine" type of collar. It would be our little secret inside joke, said Booth, who added that she is loosely part of the BDSM community. Loosely. Sure, babe. We believe you. It's okay. It's okay. You can fly that freak flag. It's fine. I fly it all the time. It's all good. Degenerates of the world united. Whatever. I don't know. Now, many viewers of Booth's TikTok have commented on jewelry expressing their curiosity as well as poking fun at it. One comment said, "Oh my god, I love your bracelet. What is it?" One user suggested an admirer could ask, and to which they could respond, "My unborn children." Well, let's watch her say her piece on this.
So I put up a half-assed joke post on Facebook because a long time ago, somebody commented on one of my TikToks asking me if I'd ever incorporated man juices into a piece before. My team thought it was hilarious. They came up with the term jizzy jewelry. Anyways, so apparently it's something that people want, and it is something that people have now ordered. So I am testing a sample that my husband lovingly provided. And I'm gonna...
Oh God, she's testing a sample that her husband lovingly provided. All phrasing, just saying it. No, stop blinking and
make myself a few jizzy jewelry pieces to see how it works, how it bakes, and how it holds up. Since I have a few samples already on the way.
I guess it wouldn't since it's dehydrated.
So I did two separate ones. I did one with just the powder, and then the second one I added a little bit of mica powder just to make it a little iridescent. I made a bead that I'm going to make a ring for myself. So I made some beads for a bracelet because I want to try new wire wrapping. And then I'm making myself a pendant as well. I also made myself a little pearl. So stay tuned, I guess. So I put up a half.
So that's that one. And our second story, rounding up the cast, is a little bit of a palate cleanser. After that Wheeler Grow story, here's something that looks like it could come from a fairy tale. And we're going to head and go this one up now. Dolphin. Dolphins are so playful. But everybody, with that, I am sad. I am sad to say that we are out of time. We know you liked what you heard because you stayed with us to the end, so please smash that like button for the algorithms, hit that subscribe, ring the bell. It really does help us out. Shout out to our Facebook community for providing some of these topics, and our producer, Nikki Adams. Without her, this process would take me a lot longer and wouldn't be nearly as good. We also do other programs on this channel. We do a program called Cipher State, which is a foreign affairs and foreign policy focused podcast. We do another podcast called Praxis Run, which will have another episode hopefully this month, where we interview people to understand why they put theory into action, with other words known as praxis, and to tap down on some vitriol. Be sure to, again, check out the Discord, join our Discord community, Facebook, Discord, YouTube, wherever else you want to find us, wherever else you can find us. And as always, as we say here, keep your head up through the political storm.